Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. That's right. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am here at FreedomFest because Larry Sharp, who is working with us, and you'll be able to see this on Larry Sharp's program as well. It's day 4 of FreedomFest. We have been very busy. As you see this morning, has been almost nonstop, and we got lucky. We've been trying to work it out for the last day or two, but I finally nailed down Spike Cohen. He's back on the program. You may recall the last time we spoke with him was during the presidential campaign. Vice President, who came in Binghamton in Broome County, came into my home studio, and spent time talking with us live then. He's back again now. We've got him for a few minutes because he's been busy. Lots of conversations, lots of speaking presentations here at Freedom Fest, and wow, you look less tired than I do. And you've been speaking.
This is all a very, very well put together facade. I'm actually asleep right now. That might be shocking to all of you, but I'm not actually awake right now. I'm very well rested. I'm going to get up around noon.
Fantastic. In time for Thomas Massey, and then Larry Sharp, Maj Toure, and Cornel West. Which we'll be covering live. Spike.
Yes.
One, by the way, I like the suit. I like, especially the flourish.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Just one.
Just trying to get like you, man.
I wish. I want to take a moment. Let's step back for a second.
Sure.
You had the vice presidential run, a national election. People don't know what that's like. Very few people get to have a conversation and say, what was that experience like? Can you take a moment and tell us, what was that like for you?
It was the most challenging thing I've ever done in my life, bar none. And not because, and I don't say that in a negative way. It was actually an incredibly rewarding thing, and it has led to us being able to do all the things that we're doing now with You Are the Power and this giant network of activists and followers that we have across the country. It was incredibly, incredibly rewarding. But it looked like, and keep in mind, that was during COVID and the lockdowns and all of that. It looked like 21 to 22 hour working days just about every day with essentially no downtime. I'd wake up, if I were on the West Coast, I'd be waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning to do drive time radio interviews on the East Coast. And I would be doing them on my way to the airport to fly to whatever the next venue was for me to do my next event, and then possibly fly to another venue for an event. In between that, doing interviews like we did at your home, interviews at studios, remote interviews, zooming in to do interviews, talking to donors, talking to the people that come out to our events, doing Q&A session. It was just endless. And in a way, it was good that it was endless because you never had a moment to just have, almost stop doing it and kind of derail yourself. You just were on all the time. So I was on for about 5 months straight.
See, when I ran for Congress in 2014, I know the day after I had a primary race. And when that was done and I was out, but I crashed for a month.
Yeah.
I got a cold instantly, and I was down for a month.
Your immune system.
The adrenaline, that hyper adrenaline came down.
Yes.
Was it similar to that?
Oh yeah, I spent the better part. We actually stayed an extra couple days in Dallas where we had our election night party, and the first day I just slept, and the second day we went out and saw some sights and stuff. Me and my wife Tasha, but we pretty much I slept for the better part of 20 hours. But the thing I walked away with during that campaign was that all of that work that we did, there needed to have been, and there needs to be moving forward, that same level of work on a consistent basis to grow and foster a culture of liberty. We talk a lot about, in fact, we say this all the time, politics is downstream of culture. But then we just say that and then we go back to politics.
Yeah. The same divisions of politics.
The same divisions of politics, and the same ultimately being largely you're relying on what's happening culturally. And so we become subject to the thing that we are aware of. What I'm doing now with You Are the Power is working on that cultural aspect, growing the culture of freedom and liberty by getting individual human beings to recognize that until we are respected as individual human beings, things are going to continue to get worse. So that however they vote, whichever party they vote for, whichever candidate they're voting for, at their core, they're going to demand not for the government to help them, but for the government to just respect them as human beings, affirm and protect their right to life, liberty, autonomy, and property, and then just be left alone on everything else to do what they're going to do.
Well, I think it was Benjamin Franklin who said it, that the government should only do what the people cannot do, not will not, cannot do. And I think that's a wonderful principle to live by, no matter what ideology someone may have. I think that fits all ideologies and would improve politics overall. Let me ask, let's transition now, taking that experience and that exposure, and obviously good people are doing well, and that's part of what you've been doing since then. But then there's FreedomFest, where you've been very active, as I mentioned, and I covered you a couple of times at various speaking. I think you were doing Mark Moss podcast yesterday. You were speaking about guns, and that was a very interesting presentation as well. Let me ask you, how has FreedomFest gone, in your opinion, and what's the benefit of events like this?
I love FreedomFest. Every year that I come, it gets better each time. And it's been, for this one in particular, has been absolutely incredible. What I love about FreedomFest is it is a worldwide gathering from people all over the globe who love freedom and liberty. Not all of them identify as libertarian. Some call themselves constitutionalists, some call themselves conservatives, some call themselves classical liberals, some call themselves anarchists or agorists, some call themselves liberals who still believe in freedom of speech. They call themselves real liberals, not like these new illiberal progressives. And all of them have the same common thread. They want to be freer tomorrow, next week, next month, next year than they are now. And how that manifests here is insane. You've been here, so I don't have to tell you, but if you've never been to a FreedomFest, it is endless panels, discussion groups, booths with all sorts of incredible ideas. And it's not just political freedom. We talk a lot about that. It's also health freedom, how to get healthier. There are all sorts of different pop-ups and booths here with different things to help people who are dealing. In fact, I'm pointing at one right now. It's mattresses that help people with chronic pain and all sorts of different things. There are workshops on how to become more economically and financially independent, so you can have the freedom that comes with that. And it's every other aspect that you can consider about freedom, and every way to address every other aspect of how to get freer tomorrow than we are now. And it's just incredible hearing the ideas. It's awesome finding other organizations whose work dovetails and overlaps with what we're doing so we can partner together. It's great getting in front of an audience of liberty lovers and telling them my vision for the liberty movement and how individual human respect is that way forward. I love these. They're just absolutely great. I get to sit down with you, doing great interviews like this.
People connect right back up again.
It's crazy that they're able to pack this into like 4 or 5 days.
It is a non-stop schedule, and it is a lot of reconnecting and a lot of new ideas as well. And yes, you were mentioning all the various 45% of America are independents. They're not part of the party. People don't realize that. There's only about 20-25% of Americans are actually in a party, and everyone else is outside of that. That's the majority. But here at FreedomFest, not only do we have that large group of people in the middle, but there are Democrats and Republicans, yes, I'm a Republican too, that are here at the event for the same exact
Absolutely,
reason.
100%.
And that's one of the things I like about FreedomFest as compared to CPAC, which I've done as well, which is more focused on conservatives and Republicans, isolated. This is more the middle.
This is the ecumenical part of the liberty movement, where we all come together. There are people here who disagree a lot, and yet we're all here for largely the same thing. And so it is you want to talk a Big Tent, we're filling up a conference room or a convention center. That's as big of a tent as it gets. We're filling up a stadium-sized convention center for this event. And, multiple, there are dozens of suites here in this convention center. Each one of them are filled with people that are watching all sorts of different discussions, presentations, documentaries, trial sessions of different innovations that are being put out. It's just, it's awesome what is happening. If you've not been to a Freedom Fest, it's hard to put into words what's happening here because just so much is happening. The takeaway, it's almost overwhelming. Actually, it is overwhelming, almost too overwhelming in terms of everything that's happening. And if I take in even half of what's happening here, I'm very fortunate to do so. And it is like you said, it is across the political spectrum, not just party affiliation, but just even how they identify themselves in their political philosophy. Many people here don't even have a political philosophy.
Oh, yeah.
They just want to be more free.
Absolutely, and that is something that I experienced. I think with all of the coverage that I've done, live and taped and still photos, I think I've only captured 10% of what's been going on, if that much.
Then you've done an incredible job. Yeah.
I don't see much. That's me. I'm a workhorse when I do these.
I've seen you a lot. Yeah.
I'm everywhere. That's my thing. Because the public, if they can't be here, they're going to get as much of the coverage as we can get out.
Yeah.
I think it's important. Speaking of what's important, going forward, let's take a step forward. Freedom Fest ends today. There will be, I think, about 4 or 5, a couple more speakers, major speakers on the main stage, and then everyone will be packing down. But it doesn't end there, does it? What's next for Spike Cohen? What's next for Freedom Fest and Libertarian Party?
Yeah. So I can tell you, what's next for me is I'm going to continue moving forward with the mission we have at You Are the Power. And I will do so much further empowered with all of the bridges that I've built with other partnered organizations here, with the folks that I've met who want to join us on this mission of what we're doing and to become members, to become activists, become donors to You Are the Power, and to continue doing what we're doing, which is finding people who are being abused by their local and state governments, putting their cause out, putting their message, putting the plight that they're going through out to the public, and getting public pressure on these government officials to back off, do the right thing, stop doing whatever harm that they're doing, and leave them alone. We've stopped eminent domain cases from happening. We've stopped people's homes from being stolen from them. We've stopped people's small businesses from being run out of town because their competing business was friends with people on the city council. We've stopped innocent families who are having their children taken from them because their state child protective services get funding to call every case that gets put in front of them abuse, and so they just call everything abuse even though it isn't. We've stopped people from having their lives upended and sometimes completely destroyed. We've stopped children from not knowing, growing up not knowing who their actual parents were and being told that they were abusers. And we did that because we found these cases, and instead of just getting mad about it and saying, oh, there's nothing I can do about it, this is just how the government is, I told you about it. I told the public about it. And you joined me, you joined us to put public pressure on these public officials and make it politically expedient for them to back off and do the right thing. And in doing so, we are creating a movement of people who intrinsically are understanding that none of this would be happening. We wouldn't have to be fighting any of this if those government officials weren't looking at us as obstacles, funding opportunities, political opportunities, and so forth, and instead we're looking at us as individual human beings and respecting us as that and not harming us. Because if they were outside of that capacity as a government official, they were just walking down the street, they would never walk up to someone and steal their children. They'd never walk up to someone and point a gun at them and say, give me all your money. They'd never walk up to them and say, I'm going to take your house from you, and if you got a problem with it, I'm going to beat you up, I'm going to throw you in a cage. They would never do that. But when they get behind that position of government official, they suddenly convince themselves that they don't have to abide by that respect for individual human beings that we expect of them the rest of the time. And that's what we do. We remind them, you're still a human being, these people are still human beings, stop doing what you're doing.
It's one of those things that I like to remind people. We're not a democracy because democracies are mob rule, essentially, at the end of the day. We are a constitutional republic, specifically so that government can't do some of the things you're mentioning.
Shouldn't do, yes.
Well, yes,
in theory can't do, yes.
But that's why we have to remind people, be active in your local communities at the state level as well and the federal, in that order, so that we can keep everything as free and as many opportunities as we develop. I mean, that's why America is the leader in the world. Because of our freedoms that everyone is jealous of, that's why we can lead it.
The founders themselves said that the document, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, before that, the Articles of Confederation, the original Constitutional Congress government, all of it is, as they put it, mere demarcations on paper if we don't understand the reason behind them, the principle behind them, and then remain vigilant in defending it. It's just paper. It's just writing. And we see very often politicians can and will ignore it because there are not enough of us understand not just that we need to defend it, but what we're defending. We're not defending writing on a sheet of paper. What we're defending is what's behind it, which is the fact that each and every one of us is an individual human being. You know, in the Declaration of Independence, it says it doesn't talk about how we as a collective it should have this. It says each one of us is endowed by our Creator with inalienable rights. And what that means is that we as individual human beings should be allowed our autonomy. We should be allowed our individuality. We should be allowed our freedom and our respect for our natural rights, life, liberty, property. We should be respected as an individual human being. And that the moment you stop doing that, it's not, oh, you should do that because it's the right thing to do. It is the right thing to do, but the reason that you should always respect people as individual human beings, if for nothing else, is that when we see when people are not being respected as individual human beings, when they're being collectivized, it is always worse, not just for that person, but by and large for everyone. We are less prosperous. We are less harmonious. We are absolutely less free, and obviously we are less happy as a result. It is always better to respect people as individuals.
I agree with that, no matter what their viewpoints may be. Now, I know we're running into the end of this, and again, I appreciate and thank you for stopping by and giving us the time. Before I ask, I have two things. They're both pretty short, but let me first ask, for people who want to figure out how to get in touch with you, to follow what you're doing, where exactly would they go?
First thing you can do, go to youarethepower.com. Become a member of You Are the Power. See what we're about. If that lines up with what you want, then come and join us. We are setting people free. We are helping people whose lives are being upended and destroyed. And in doing so, we're bringing people into a movement that first gets them involved in actually helping others, and as they're doing that, exposes them to the underlying principles of libertarianism, individual human respect. So that's the first thing you do. Youarethepower.com. Become a member. If you're able to donate, that's fantastic as well. We'd love to have you be a part of it. If you want to follow what I'm doing, I am easily found on the internet. I'm very online, and I am very loud online. So if you look for Spike Cohen on any of your social media platforms that you use, you will find me there, just shining like the sun. And if you want to follow my upcoming events, you can also follow that on social media, but you can also go to spikecohen.com. That has a list of my upcoming events. The next one I'm going to be doing is YALCON, which is Young Americans for Liberty in Orlando, Florida, beginning of next month. And so youarethepower.com, and you can follow me on my socials. And if you ever get lost, you have a hard time finding me, just go to the ATF's page on whatever social media platform you're using, and you'll find me there. Cyberbullying. If nothing else, that's the tree you can hug if you get lost in the woods.
I love that. Okay, that was funny. But that brings me actually to one of the last two things.
Sure.
One, have you heard about HR 3018?
I can't say that.
See, and I've asked a couple of people about that. It's something that came out June 26th. They slipped it in Congress.
Okay.
157 Democrats. It is a national red flag. They're not listing it as a national red flag, but it is that. And as many people know, that is a hot button for me. I do not want to see that. So just letting you have a heads up on it. I've talked to Maj and a few other people about it. They're trying to slip it past us very quietly.
Yeah.
So just something to look into. The second thing, as always, in all of my interviews, I always like to ask, I know we've covered a very broad stroke here today. There's a lot of subjects to cover, and I think we did a decent job of that, but is there any one final thought or message or something that you would like to say to the audience and share with them before we go?
Absolutely. You are the only you that you're going to be. I know this sounds like some Dr. Seuss thing I'm about to do, but it's not. The fact that you are here, all of the things that could have prevented you from being here on a literal second-by-second basis could have happened, and you wouldn't be here. So the fact that you are here is the equivalent of winning a Powerball lottery every microsecond for eternity. It is an impossible jackpot that you won, that you even exist. And the time that we have here, compared to the overall span of time in this universe, it's essentially nothing. It is so fleeting. The difference between a newborn and a hospice patient is that a newborn's days are numbered in months and years, and a hospice patient's are measured in days and weeks. It is so fleeting, the time that we are here. And the fact that you have such an incredibly, essentially virtually impossible gift, impossibly rare gift, that is so incredibly fleeting, means that it is incumbent upon all of us to demonstrate the gratitude that we have for that gift by respecting every single person as an individual human being and demanding that respect from others. And the most powerful way I have found that I can do that is through the work that I do at You With the Power. And if you agree and would like to join me, again, I ask you to come to join us at YouWithThePower.com.
But I should ask, is you Y-O-U?
Yes, YOURthepower.com. Yes, spelled out YOUARE thepower.com.
I just thought of that.
No, thank you.
Always good to check in. But thank you again, Spike, for being here with us. I know there's a lot of events yet to go. We still have a lot of live coverage coming up. And again, let me remind you, Maj, Larry Sharp, and Cornell West. It's going to be great. Sound check. Okay, we got to back up sound.